There's an indicator that 99% of people don't know about, and it's been extremely accurate at signaling entry and exit points for Bitcoin since 2017. I'm going to show you everything here in this video. First of all, just to remind you how an exchange works, on one side, you always have buy orders, and on the other side, sell orders. There's a difference between what's called a maker order and what's called a taker order, because maker orders are when we set a specific price at which we want to buy or sell an asset. So if the asset is trading at 29,800, for example, a make or buy order could be set at 29,750, for instance. This means that if the price reaches that value, the order will be executed. But obviously, there's a risk that the asset won't reach that value. So a maker order is one that tries to buy or sell at a certain price, while a taker order is executed at the market price, meaning whatever the price is at that moment. That's why it's an order that removes liquidity, and that's why it's more expensive, with a higher fee to be paid. After all, the person who wants to buy or sell wants to do it right away. They're in a hurry. They believe it's not worth trying to fine-tune a specific entry or exit price. They just want to execute at whatever the price is at that moment. This is interesting because the taker order, in a way, measures the immediate need or desire to make a trade. It also shows that the investor believes that price is really good, whether to enter or exit, to the point that it's worth paying a little extra for it. So what the taker buy-sell ratio indicator does is exactly calculate the total volume of taker buy orders and divide it by the volume of taker sell orders, and with that, it arrives at a number. If the volume of taker buy orders is equal to the volume of taker sell orders, it means this indicator will have a value of 1, which is neutral. But if the volume of taker buy orders is greater than the volume of taker sell orders, this indicator will have a value above 1, indicating positive buying pressure. In other words, there is more urgency or need to buy immediately than to sell immediately. If this indicator is below 1, it means the opposite. It means there is more urgency and need, more willingness to execute immediate orders on the sell side than on the buy side. And since here we're talking about financial volume, it means that those with more money will have a bigger impact on the calculation. In other words, the money from big players, the whales, will probably move this indicator the most. This is interesting because, in fact, those with more money, the so-called smart money, are usually the ones who drive where the asset's price is headed. They move first, either because they have privileged information or because they have more sophisticated systems to operate. So let's take a look at this indicator to see if it has historically been accurate or not, and you'll probably be surprised. So I'm going to start here by showing two levels, which I call the extreme buy level and the extreme sell level. The green line down here at the bottom is where the indicator is showing up. Up here on the top chart is the price of Bitcoin, okay? Over time. So here in this chart, you can see the value, and here also the value of the indicator, where the red line is marking the 0.97 point, and the green line is marking the 1.03 point. These are extreme levels where it's rare for the indicator to get this high or this low. In other words, when it reaches this 1.03 level, it means there's a lot of accumulated buying pressure compared to immediate sell orders. And it's the same thing down here when there are a lot of immediate sell orders instead of buy orders. So first, I'm going to show moments when this indicator reached the 1.03 point since 2017. We can see that in October 2017, when the price of Bitcoin was around $5,000, this indicator reached the value of 1.03, which I'm marking here as a buy entry point. And right after that, the price of Bitcoin went through a very strong rally, which was the last rally of the 2017 bull cycle, where it got close to $20,000. Then, when this indicator once again reaches that level of 1.03, it's exactly at the lows of the 2019 cycle, when the price was around $3,000. And right after this indicator hit that 1.03 range, there was also a quick rally that took the price from $3,000 to about $13,000. A rally that was also very strong and very extensive. About a year later, around the time of the pandemic, this indicator also marked the bottom very well, signaling a buy near the $7,000 price range, and the price moved from $7,000 up to about $11,000 quickly as well. And then it signaled another entry here when the price was around $11,000, where this time Bitcoin had a rally from 11,000 up to about $64,000. And that was the last time this indicator signaled a buy since 2017. So we can see here that every time this indicator signaled a buy, there was a massive rally in Bitcoin's price. And since then, it hasn't signaled again. It hasn't reached such extreme values, except for right now, in the present day. Look at what happened. Just yesterday and the day before, I'm recording this video here on a Monday, May 4th, we can see that this indicator once again managed to reach the level of 1.03 and broke above it, even hitting values a bit higher than its historical record. It had never reached such high values since back in 2017. So this is really surprising because another very relevant factor is that this indicator usually signals a buy precisely when the price is low. If we compare it to the other moments I showed, this indicator doesn't cross here when the price is high. It crosses when the price is low. In fact, here we had one. Since the peak of $125,000, compared to today's price, it's around $70,000 to $80,000. In fact, it's well below the peak, and it's signaling a buy again for the first time since 2020. That is, it's been about 6 years since it last signaled a buy like this. What this could indicate is that the price is about to have a very strong new rally, probably reaching new all-time highs. If we also look at this indicator when it signals a sell, its accuracy is also very high and quite surprising. If we look here, it signals a sell in May 2018, and that was just before the price plunged by more than 50%. Because after that, the price kept dropping and reached lows of around $3,000 in December 2018. And it's also common for this indicator on the sell side when it reaches 0.97 to hit that level when the price is near its lows, maybe because of investors' panic, right? And also because this indicator, which I haven't mentioned yet, measures the volume of staker orders in the perpetual futures market. And in the perpetual futures market, it's normal to see financial hedging operations. In other words, the investor is long in the spot market and makes a sell operation in the futures market to protect themselves. That's why sell signals are more common. This indicator is able to hit the sell points more quickly than the buy points because sell orders in the futures market can have many reasons, including financial hedging. It doesn't necessarily mean the market is bearish. On the other hand, when it comes to buy orders in the futures market, there usually aren't other motivations besides a bullish market. But here, if we look at other times when this indicator reached that extreme value of 0.97, another instance was in October 2019. That was also a little before another flash crash, which happened in March 2020 during the pandemic. So it's as if this indicator somehow predicted that this flash crash would happen. And you might be asking yourself, how can it predict something, a systemic event like that? A lot of times the information's already out there. Like during the pandemic, for example, people already knew about the virus months before, but hardly anyone paid attention. And sometimes it's smart money. It's the big players who are making moves, either hedging or even selling outright, because they think the risk isn't worth it. That's why these things usually show up in this indicator before they show up directly in the market. And here, the indicator almost touches the 0.97 mark again, right before it hits the peak of 1.03 again, which is that buy point, marking the bottom of the pandemic. Then here, once again, it reaches this extreme a little before prices drop from 12 to 10,000, a drop that happened in August 2020, and right after that, once again, it signals a buy here. So if you're trading based on this indicator, just look at how accurate it's been. You sell here at 12,000, then buy back again at 10,000, and then you only sell again, do you know when? Here, when the price is at 65,000, it's signaled a sell, indicating that the taker order pressure was really strong right at a price peak. So this is also a very clear signal. A high price with this indicator running low is a very strong sell signal, just like a low price with this indicator running high is a very strong buy signal. Here again, we had a sell signal at the end of 2021, and at that time, no one thought it would be the end of the cycle, because Bitcoin was very close to hitting new all-time highs, a second phase of the alt season was starting, and this indicator was one of the only ones signaling a sell. And what happened next was exactly the beginning of a long bear market. And the other time this indicator signaled a sell was recently, here in August 2025, when the price of Bitcoin was also at highs of $120,000. Again, very few people believed it would be the end of the cycle because an alt season was just starting, smaller cryptocurrencies were beginning to move up, but this indicator was signaling that the market was going to drop, and in fact, the market did fall. And here, what happened next is what has also happened in all the other cycles. The indicator touches a very low point one last time after a prolonged downward movement, and then soon after makes a new high. If we look back at the history, this has been happening since way back in 2017. If we look at the lowest point here, right? Remember what I showed you? At the lowest point, it hits the minimum just a little before signaling a buy. Then in 2019, during the pandemic, it hits the minimum point just a little before signaling a buy. Then again, just before the 2021 rally, it hits the minimum point before reaching the buy signal. And look at what's happening now. It's exactly the same thing. It hits the minimum point after signaling a sell at the maximum, right? It hits the minimum point and now signals a buy again. And for someone like me, who's been following this indicator for many years, obviously this is a very strong sign that now is the time to be invested in Bitcoin. And so it doesn't seem like this indicator just got lucky if we look not only at the extreme points, but also at its movement over time. We'll also see a lot of accuracy in terms of divergence. I even made a note here so you can take a closer look at any given period. So here I selected a time frame from the end of 2021 to the middle of 2023 so we can see how this indicator moves over time. Even though it didn't reach the extremes, because during this period, after signaling a sell at the end of the 2021 cycle, it didn't touch the sell or buy points for a long time. But even so, the way the indicator moves over time also seems to predict very well, or rather, anticipate the entry and exit points for Bitcoin. Take a look here. I marked the points where the indicator moves as A, B, and C, and with an asterisk, I marked the price movements which always happen after the indicator moves. So let's look here. The price of Bitcoin is falling while the value of the indicator is rising. And what happens to the price of Bitcoin afterward? The price goes up. So here, A asterisk would be what happened after the indicator in movement A was rising. Then the same thing here. The price was going up while the indicator was already falling here at stage B. And what happened to the price afterward? It dropped. That's why I put an asterisk, because that's what was reflected, where the indicator anticipated what the movement would be. And all the other movements were like that too. The indicator going up and the price going down means that the price will go up afterward. Then the indicator was falling here before the price. The price was still going up, but the indicator was already falling, and then the price drops. So here, after the price stays stable, but the indicator is falling, the price ends up dropping afterward. Here, the price is stable, but the indicator is rising, and then the price ends up going up. Here, the indicator starts to fall really early, and right after that, the price drops. So here, later on, the indicator stays stable until it drops again at a point where the price had already gone up. And then what happens is the price falls. So the indicator's movements always seem to anticipate the price, especially when there's a divergence, where the price is falling or rising, and the indicator is moving in the opposite direction, either rising or falling. This usually anticipates what happens with the price, and of course, when it reaches the extreme levels of the green line and the red line, that's an even stronger signal for entry and for a prolonged upward or downward movement. So back in 2000, at the end of 2021, when no one believed it would be the end of the cycle, this indicator was already predicting things like the war in Ukraine, the Omicron variant, and other events that happened soon after, and caused the market to drop. If it was also able to signal that there would be a pandemic, as I showed earlier, if it managed to signal here at the end of 2025 that there would be this Middle East conflict, which no one expected either, what could it be signaling now? What is this indicator picking up that is about to happen soon? Maybe a resolution to the Middle East conflict, followed by a change in the chair of the Fed, who will care less about inflation and will probably lower interest rates, which is very good for cryptocurrency prices. This indicator is probably also predicting the approval of the Clarity Act or the implementation of the Genius Act, which has already been approved but will come into effect in the coming months. All these positive factors may already be getting priced in and are now, for the first time in so many years, setting the stage for a new extreme rally for Bitcoin to begin. So we'll find out soon if this is really going to happen. If you enjoyed this content, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. I also have an account on X and on Telegram. Everyone is more than welcome there to join the discussion. I have a lot of interesting things to show you all, and I'll see you soon in new videos here on the channel. See you later.